Okay, hi, this is Chris, and I just wanted to make a real quick little video on how to research a college level writing assignment, where the expectation is that you need to go out and find additional sources from which to incorporate insights into your own paper. So I'm going to talk about doing this for a philosophy class, but this should pretty much cross over to any other discipline. So the internet gives us a lot of access to information. When I was in school, you basically had to go to the library and start looking through books, but now you can use the internet for this. And again, we have access to a lot of information, but students often have trouble figuring out what kinds of information they can, that they should use and that they shouldn't use in a college level paper. So I wanted to make a real quick little video on this. So there are some basic common mistakes that students run into here. Improper research, not using the right kinds of sources, insufficient research is not digging deep enough into the material, and then oftentimes there's a problem not citing information, which is a problem as well. So I'm going to focus more on the research stuff here. So as a way of getting started, what you need to look for are scholarly sources on your topic rather than just popular pieces on your topic. So the way you start out is going to matter here. I wouldn't go through a general search engine like Google or Bing or Yahoo to start looking for information. You're going to come up with lots of popular sources. It'll probably be a mix of popular sources, some stuff written by academics, maybe on their personal web pages, or maybe some other students, or maybe just lay persons who have an interest in that particular academic discipline, whether it's philosophy or something else. But you're going to come up with lots and lots of different kinds of sources. Not all of them are appropriate. So, for example, if you use Google, you'll probably come across some about.com pages. This is not a good resource for a college level paper when you're looking for scholarly sources, so I wouldn't use that one as well. That's something to be avoided. If your paper ends up drawing information from lots of popular sources, the instructor is probably going to think you don't know how to do basic college level research, and that's going to count against your paper just on mechanics alone. So you want to avoid using things like about.com, the difference between .net. This isn't a good source either. Wikipedia, again, you don't want to use that as well. Now, I'm not saying you won't come across anything that's never helpful to you. Wikipedia can be helpful every once in a while, but it's a crowdsourced thing, so it's not really all that reliable. It's not peer-reviewed, and that's one of the things that makes something a scholarly source. So again, I would avoid that Wikipedia and instead use something that's produced by recognized professionals working in the discipline, and I'll come back to that point here in a minute. So you might come across, again, from a general search engine, something like philosophy pages, which can be helpful. Again, I wouldn't use that as a source either for your paper, although you might find some helpful information there. You'll also find things like this. Here's Gilbert Harmon, who's a influential scholar these days in metaethics. He's got his personal website up here, and as you scroll down, you see what his teaching is for this upcoming semester, what his interests are, and he's got his papers, some of which are unpublished, listed here, and other ones that are published, archived on his own page. So again, you can find useful stuff just from a general search engine, but it's probably not the preferred way to set out looking for information from the get-go, out of the gate. So instead of using things like Google, what you ought to do is use an academic database to find your information. So how to get to these databases? Well, there are different ways to get into these academic databases. It used to be the case that a lot of it was subscription only. Universities would have to subscribe to these databases, and then students would have access to them through their university. Increasingly, there are open access databases as well. So here's, for example, the directory of open access journals. This is available just on the internet. And again, it's scholarly materials, but it's open access. You don't have to pay to get into that information. They list some of the publishers down here at the bottom. So again, you can find useful things. In philosophy, there's something called philosophypapers.org. Again, open access. The problem with philpapers.org is that a lot of it is not archived on this site itself. It's archived somewhere else, often behind a paywall or a subscription wall. So you're going to run into that problem there. Again, some of the stuff is archived here, and you can download it and find it from there as well. So these are more acceptable sources to use. But so you've got to be looking for, so again, scholarly material. So where should you go to get to that material so that you get started off on the right foot? Well, here I've signed into my LSU. Other universities probably have their own portals into their own internets there, into their own library services. And down here on the left we have our library resources. So I've clicked on it and opened up some more options here, and then I just click on indices and databases, and it takes me right to the LSU webpage, LSU library webpage, and a list of various academic disciplines or subjects. So again, we're dealing with philosophy, so I'll go to philosophy here, and here's a list of all these academic databases. You see Google Scholar is thrown into the mix here, but we've got Ingenta, JSTOR, Project Muse, Philosopher's Index, Past Masters, and all these are databases of scholarly work that's been through a peer-reviewed, a blind peer-reviewed process to help ensure that it's of good scholarly quality, that it meets scholarly standards and so forth. So here we'll just take JSTOR as an example. So I go to JSTOR, and it pulls up. Here, let's give it a second here. It's going to pull up the JSTOR website, and you see up in the address here, I'm logged in through LSU. And let's say that I'm researching a paper topic on Plato's Republic and the Divided Line in that book. It's a famous work of philosophy. So I'm going to type in Plato, Republic, Divided Line, hit search, and I get lots and lots of results from academic journals here, written by various people. So here's something by someone named Lynn E. Rose from the Review of Metaphysics. It's a pretty well-respected journalist. It's from 1964, and I click on that link, and again, let's give it a second here. It's going to pull up that actual article that I can then download to my computer. Now, when you're researching this material, there's no shortcut for having to read through it and find out whether it's going to be useful for your particular assignment or not. That's just the pains of research. So you're going to need to give yourself plenty of time to read through several things, maybe, and you'll probably run into a few dead ends along the way, or some articles that aren't immediately helpful to you, and that's just the way it goes. So there's no shortcut for that. So if I want to download this particular article to my computer, I hit on View PDF right here, accept JSTOR's conditions, and again another window pops up, and it's going to have that article in full for me here that I can then download to my own computer, and tons of sources that you want to be picking for your school assignments where you're expected to go find scholarly research. You'll be making a very large mistake in your paper if you rely on popular sources where you should have incorporated insights from scholarly sources. Right away, your instructor is going to think that you don't know how to do basic academic research. So you want to get started off on the right foot, and the way to do that is to just go to academic databases rather than a general search engine. Again, keep in mind that I'm not saying that general search engines are never useful for finding academic work. They can be. It's just that you don't want to start off there as a general rule, because you're going to come up with all sorts of popular sources as well as scholarly sources. And again, the difference is that scholarly sources have been through a blind peer review process, whereas a general search engine will give you results from just anybody with an internet connection that wants to put anything up on the internet, whether it's been peer-reviewed or not, whether it was just some student's term paper that they put on, or so forth. You don't want to use those as sources. So you want to go to the databases that your university provides for you. Now, in terms of the depth of research that you need to do, here's another mistake that I see students making a lot of times. They will stick with general introductions, encyclopedia articles, or summaries, where what they should do is, again, go to an article that's more in-depth and gain insights from that. So, for example, I have students sometimes that might use the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy or the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Now, these are great resources. They're open access. But they're still peer-reviewed, They're supported usually by universities and whatnot. But students often will just stick with the encyclopedia article rather than digging deeper into the research. So again, here I'm going to put in Plato Republic divided line. And it's probably going to give me a bunch of entries on Plato here. And so here's, where's the one on the Republic? There's right at the top. Here's Plato's Republic. And so one of the things that students will do sometimes, they'll go to the entry on this, and then they'll draw insights just out of the encyclopedia entry itself. Well, look, these encyclopedia entries are a great place to start your research because they give you a general overview, and they usually contain very helpful bibliographies at the end where they've listed further reading or where they're providing the citations for what they've incorporated into their encyclopedia article. Now look, one of the things your instructor is probably looking for you to do is for you to engage the scholarship rather than sticking with someone else's summary or encyclopedia entry on that subject. So again, these are great places to start your research because of these bibliographies and because they do provide helpful overviews, but you should engage that material for yourself and then demonstrate your own mastery of that material in your paper rather than relying on someone else's summary of it. Again, one of the things your instructor is probably expecting you to do is to show some first-hand acquaintance with the scholarly literature on your topic rather than relying on general introductions. So if you're sticking at the level of general introductions and summaries and whatnot, introductory level material, you're not going to be researching your paper deep enough. You're not going to be examining your topic thoroughly enough in order to gain the insights to help you write a better paper, especially if it's an argumentative paper. You need to dig into the research of that rather than the general introductions. So this has just been a basic overview of how to get started doing your research for papers that require scholarly sources. I hope it's been kind of a helpful refresher to you. Be sure and avoid the sorts of mistakes I mentioned when you're writing in my classes. All right, take care. If you have any questions, see me during office hours.